start with a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call. Tom Collins.
Here.
Craig Palmisano. Richard Patterson.
Here.
John Pitts.
Here.
Jim Galantino. Margaret Gubernolti.
Here.
Stephen Giesecke.
Here.
Michael Ruffio.
Here.
Andrew Campbell. Michael Richmond.
Here. This meeting is being held in accordance with New Jersey statute requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the press and posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that if you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form outlining the procedures for obtaining building permits and mercantile licenses. At the conclusion of your case tonight, please approach the board administrator to sign the provided information sheet. And we're going to do the approval of minutes.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. Okay, our first case is Ethan Zhang, 8201 Lagoon Drive, Block 1200, Lot 42, located in the S60 zoning district, seeking a C variance relief for circular drive, 2 curb cuts, and potentially others for a new single-family home. Current on taxes, water and sewer payments, proof of advertising and notifications provided, represented by Christopher Balanson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Chris Balanson. I represent Ethan and Rachel Zhang with respect to their property at 8201 Lagoon Drive. It's a house there currently under construction for them. They will be moving here year-round. Ethan is a dentist. He'll be working in Dr. Mendelson's office and bringing their family here, and we'll be on Lagoon Drive permanently. 8201 Lagoon Drive is block 1200, lot 42. It's in the S60 zone with 6,000 square foot lots. The property sits right at the termination of Huntington Avenue where the stop sign is at Lagoon Drive. As many of us know, Lagoon Drive, that stop sign was put there several years ago because Lagoon Drive is a through street, the only through street to Jerome Avenue for a large part of northeast Margate, all of Bayside Court, Seaside Court, West Bayshore Drive, Barclay Avenue back in that way, the end of Claremont Avenue. Because the only street next to that that comes out onto Jerome Avenue is up by the basketball courts, which is Fulton Avenue. Marshall Avenue is one way or the other way. My point being that Lagoon Drive in that location sees a lot of traffic coming through out of Margate onto Jerome Avenue to go to the bridge. A stop sign was put there several years ago because for that reason, fortunately or unfortunately, the Zangs purchased that property, which is right at the termination of Huntington Avenue. The request for the double curb cut to have a circular drive is to allow the Zangs and their guests, their kids, whatever, so they don't have to back out into that intersection routinely and can avoid doing that in the summertime when it's busy, like I said, when it's busy. It seems to be logically a safer scenario than having a single driveway and having to back out into that intersection regularly. I know this board has always had issues, so to speak, unavoidable, with multiple stacked car driveways because of the backing out issue onto a through street. That's kind of exactly the situation we have here, and this gives us an opportunity to avoid that. It gives us an opportunity to avoid that in a location where a circular drive is prevalent. I think I've asked for one other in my career here, and that was granted because we were able to show that it is really a prevalent design standard in the Bayshore Drive, Lagoon Drive area. There are between 30 and 40 houses that have that configuration. It kind of makes that area unique. So aside from the safety factors, which we think we can demonstrate, for those houses that can accommodate it without sacrificing substantial amount of on-street parking, which we don't, we still maintain a space on site between the curb cuts. being similar. There's a house right next to us on the right, a house right next to us on the left, has the same double curb cut configuration, same circular drive, so it would actually be 3 in a row, fitting in with the neighborhood pattern. Instead of me telling you everything, let Tom Days, project planner and engineer speak. Peter Weiss is the architect, he's here. Dr. Zhang is here. He can speak if anybody has any questions.
Excuse me, Chris.
Sure, Mike.
I didn't
gonna
let
swear
Roger
you.
do
Get
that,
Roger
so-
sworn in. Mr.
Yeah,
McLarnon.
sorry about that.
That's all right. Do you swear affirm the testimony you'll give this evening will be the truth?
I do.
Okay,
I
thanks.
didn't write a report for this application because it's a basic application, simple. I just want to point out there's actually three variances. One is 2 curb cuts, and the other one is the width of each curb cut. It's supposed to be 10 feet, and there's 2 12s proposed. So, just wanna-
I think we could probably bring it to 10 if the board thinks that that's a better idea. I didn't realize that. That's something that can be done.
So we're gonna make them 10 foot?
You can make that amendment, sure.
Okay,
Sure.
great.
I mean, that gives us 20 feet of curb cut versus
18,
18, which you'd be allowed to have anyway.
right.
It says
Right.
118, but minimum width of the 1 is, you're asking for 2 curb
I
cuts.
understand, but in total, you're looking at asking for additional 2 feet
So that,
over what's permitted complete total. Tom,
so be
That's not a variance.
one variance,
It's just
right?
2 curb cuts.
2 curb cuts.
so it's a single variance, 2 curb cuts.
That's it.
The rest of the house is under construction and conforms to the ordinance.
Okay.
Great.
And Mr. Dace, just give us your name and business address for the record. I'll get you sworn in.
Hi, my name is Thomas Days, work for Arthur Ponzio Company, 400 North Dover Avenue, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
And please raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you'll give this evening will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Tom, you're a licensed professional planner and engineer.
I am.
The board, Mr. Davis has been here before. The board accepts qualifications.
Yes,
Planner and engineer, thank you. Tom, you're familiar with the property that Zhang's purchased?
I am.
There's a house being constructed there now,
That's correct.
and we're waiting, obviously, on a curb cut design to get approved, hopefully this. Give the board the benefit of your experience with the application, what you've observed at the site, and what you believe are the benefits and justifications for the 2 curb cuts.
All right. A lot of what I'm about to say, you just heard between the conversation Roger's had about the variances, identifying the variances we were requesting. We've eliminated the one. That was the beginning of my presentation. What we're here for is a circular driveway. It's the 2 curb cuts that are the issue. We don't need variances for setbacks or anything. We meet all the setbacks for the driveways. We don't need any variances for coverage. We meet all the coverages. So the only thing is the 2 curb cuts, and now it's 2 10-foot curb cuts. As Chris mentioned,
The purpose of the curb cuts gives you a circular drive for ingress and egress.
correct.
Either way.
So what it does is it improves circulation on site, which then kind of advances the purpose of zoning of the free flow of traffic. What we were trying to avoid here is with one 18-foot curb cut like we'd originally proposed, cars would have to back out into Lagoon Drive. Now, if there's cars parked on both sides of Lagoon, which there would still be an opportunity for cars to be parked here, obviously backing out is a maneuver that's more complicated and more challenging than just pulling straight out. Your visibility is better if you pull straight out. So for that reason, that's the reason we looked at making these changes and going with the 2 curb cuts.
And what site condition exists out there that makes that even more complicated or more risky, so to speak, at this location?
So directly across from the lot right next to us is an intersection, and it's not just a straight intersection, a T intersection. There's also an angled street coming in, Bayside Court, I believe it is. And so it does create some interesting maneuvers coming out of that intersection. And again, we believe that being able to pull straight out, you're looking at the traffic coming from both directions. We just believe it's a safer alternative. And I think the preponderance of the neighborhood, and if you look at the neighborhood, they seem to agree, because as Chris said, there are 13 along Lagoon Drive that have 2 curb cuts. And then if you look at Bayshore Drive, the 2 ends of Bayshore Drive, down a little bit, that's a total of 16 more. So that right there is 29, and that's just right in this vicinity. I didn't look all the way down Bayshore, but there are many properties with 2 curb.
Prevalent design
Yes.
concept in the area?
Yes, it's very consistent with the way that neighborhood's been developed.
And why, with respect to parking, Tom, why does it seem to work back there and not present a problem with parking? Is that because of the, I guess, the nature of that area, and whether it's year-round homeowners or seasonal homeowners?
Yeah, I mean, so we're not close to a commercial district, so nobody's parking here to, go to any commercial establishments. We're not close to the beach, so nobody's parking to go to the beach. So most of the people that are parking on this street are going to the homes on Lagoon Drive. So that way, they understand the way the street functions. Not sure if it's still on. Do I need that?
Yes.
Without it? All right.
the record.
And did you take an opportunity to look generally in the area at the availability of off-street parking on some of the larger lot houses, most of the larger lot houses?
Yeah, I mean, when there's two curb cuts, obviously that does cut into the on-street parking. Here we have, now that we have 10-foot curb cuts, we'll have 38 feet of parking. I did some research today, and with the exception of full-size pickup trucks, 2 cars are going to fit there.
Well, in a parking lot, an 18-foot space would be a legal space.
Yeah, I mean,
We have more than 2 18s.
correct.
Understanding that's not the same standard on the street.
Right, there is no real standard for a parallel parking space in the street. In this case, they're not even parallel spaces because you'd be able to pull in straight or back in. So it's not like you'd even need to do a maneuver, a typical parallel parking maneuver to utilize what I consider to be 2 parking spaces.
So in effect, we're not really sacrificing any significant on-street parking.
Correct, and just to point out with respect to parking, 2 spaces are required. We're providing 4 on-site spaces. And again, in reality, you could probably get at least 2 more cars parked on that lot. So we believe there's ample off-street parking provided by this project.
Do you think that, Tom, you mentioned that in positive criteria that this design of that location promotes the free flow of traffic?
Correct.
And is that because it avoids, in certain instances, the having to back out near that intersection or onto Lagoon Drive, which is a through street?
That's correct.
What about, do you see any detriment to the public good or to the zoning ordinance or zone plan as a result of, should the board allow this to occur in this location?
I don't. As I said, 2 curb cuts are permitted. It comes down to the width of them. Actually, I'm sorry, 2 curb cuts aren't permitted, but with the 75-foot lot, we would be allowed to have the 18-foot curb cut. So the 210 were basically the same. So in that way, it does respect the zoning ordinance.
Fortunately, we're not sacrificing any on-street parking. We're still maintaining approximately 2 spaces on-street between the curb cuts.
Correct.
Do you see any detriment to the public good?
I do not. I mean, again, as the neighborhood's been developed, it would seem that the neighbors agree that this is a better alternative.
Is there
this
substantial
area.
impact on the zoning plan or the zoning ordinance?
There's not.
Well, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter's here, he designed the house.
So I have a question. The original approved 18-foot wide was onto the left of the property, correct? So now this other curb cut's being right at where the stop bar is and closer to the intersection, which in my opinion makes it less safe. And it's a 3-way stop intersection, so when you pull out, the cars are stopped coming towards the bridge because there's a stop sign. Cars on Huntington Avenue are stopped, and cars coming along towards Ventnor on Lagoon Drive are slowing down to a stop. So now we're putting the driveway closer to that intersection, which in my opinion is not ideal.
I think that's a matter of how they're gonna use the driveway and
Well, they never use the driveway how they say they're gonna use it.
well, you develop a practice after using your own house for a while, you develop a practice of coming out on the side.
I
So
just
when
think
2
that-
cars are parked in the driveway, how's the second car get out?
Honey, can you move your car,
Mine's
please?
gotta back out.
You ask somebody to move their car if need be.
They still have to back out.
I mean, it's not gonna happen in every case, and if there's nobody there, if it's the middle of the winter, there's nobody there, you can back out like anywhere else in Margate. But it does afford the opportunity on occasions to not have to back out adjacent to that intersection, because if you're trying to back out here, no matter where you are, Roger, whether you're here or here, you don't know with this person on Huntington coming onto Lagoon how they're gonna turn. You have a better opportunity to see that if your nose out.
If there's a car in front of the garage and you pull in the other way, you have to back out.
I understand that, and I'm not denying that that's gonna happen.
Right.
I'm not saying that this is a perfect scenario, but in terms of percentages, it's probably a better scenario.
But the driveway's further away from the intersection, that gives you more time.
I mean, sure.
Right.
I mean, there's point, counterpoint to, everything I could say.
Right.
I understand that. It could also shift this way. I think that's a safer configuration. The 210s could certainly be done. If you want that to shift this way off center, I think that's better. That's also an option that we could design into the project. I mean, but for the fact that this 2 curb cut thing seems to create a problem for some, there's a total loss of only 2 more feet of frontage and no loss of parking. So it's hard to imagine when you have the potential to make this safer, on some instances, why that wouldn't be a good thing. As opposed to saying, no, we're gonna force you to back out every time. And because you're 10 feet further away from the intersection over here, that makes up the difference. I mean, you know, give Mrs. Zhang an opportunity, at least if she wants to be able to pull out forward, and that's what this does, or her kids. I mean, to say, no, we have a rule, and we're gonna stick by that rule, and you're gonna back out next to that intersection every single time, despite the fact there are opportunities to make that less often. That's all. It's not a perfect scenario, but it just seems to make it somewhat safer for the homeowners and for people driving on Lagoon, people driving on Huntington. I mean, somebody who stopped at Huntington at the stop sign either way can see this driver's face and see what they're going to do, and vice versa, rather than toying with the car, backing out every single time. It's just it kind of like common sense. I hate to say, but it seems to make sense. I mean, to have a steadfast rule that you can't do that, you're going to back out every time, that doesn't seem to make sense when there can be a better alternative.
You can back into the driveway, too.
Well,
Well, since the,
Sorry, back what? Into the driveway? Sure, yeah, of course, Dr. Quant, you have to
It's a guy
be
thing.
sworn. You have to be sworn in by Leo.
Mr. Zhang, just give us your name and address for the record, please. I'll swear you in.
Chen Zan. My address is 8201 Lagoon Drive.
And please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
So regarding, the back into the driveway or I think, me and my wife, we can coordinate. If the person next morning got to leave early, we can set the person back into the garage. When you drive in through the intersection area, we can back in here into the garage. So the other person driving
You
here,
leave the circular drive open.
right, so that we can leave that open. Basically, it's not gonna back into the drive, the street again,
Yes, you have to leave it open in the middle, in the front of the house, for three cars to back out of the garage and driveway. You need to be left open in front of the house. The one right in the middle needs to be left open. If you put a car there, you can't back out, like Roger said. Otherwise, you're backing out the curb.
I know, that's between me and my wife. We can coordinate a person next morning, you gotta go to work earlier, yeah, then we gotta probably do this way, back into the garage, you can leave early.
So basically, you're saying that you only have 2 cars, you and your wife?
Yes,
Okay. So one would go in, one would go out.
right.
It's not like you have
No.
5 or 6 cars or a big...
No, we don't have that many cars.
Right. So it's basically to keep you safe, to keep your wife safe,
Right.
to not have accidents.
Because it happened, the reason we asked a variance, because our original driveway was on this side. Every time we back in there, back out, there's a bayside core coming out. There are sometimes the people, they don't follow the rule, they bypass the stop sign on the other side of the street on Huntington. They just, make a quicker left turn. And a lot of times, we see the, rear mirror, we didn't see the car, but once we get on the street, the car is already behind of us. It happened so many times. That's why we requesting, this variance.
I mean, your house is finished, almost finished?
Yeah,
And obviously, this was important enough for you to wait to do this, to ask permission to do this,
right,
because you did experience it the other way,
that's right,
with the single curb cut.
right.
I have a question. Is it Tom? Yes. So the cars in the driveway, when they're going to back out, is there enough swing room to get back into this U driveway? Because it looks like it's kind of tight to be able to make that swing, to be able to take advantage of the exit.
From the garage, back out on this way?
Yeah, so you back out,
So I mean, that's an engineering question.
well, that's okay to
question
back
is-
in, but
Question is like the doctor
Yeah, no,
said,
I mean, I believe it certainly looks, I mean, I haven't run the template on it, but it does look as though you would have enough room to, back out, and then forward, assuming there's no car there. I'd also point out, we're showing 4 parking spaces on the plan. We're only required to have 2. So if we weren't showing them, I don't know that the questions about blocking access and things like that would necessarily be there. We could have, with 2 cars, now that whole thing is open for circulation on the site. So I think, that's an alternative, and that's the actual scenario that is anticipated by the application and by the owner.
Yeah, we lived there almost 7 years, so, all this scenario pretty much you were in experience. Plus there's a, school bus drop by there, drop off the kids, pick up the kids.
where?
Could you just get a little closer?
Right on the
to the mic?
Huntington.
use the microphone.
Thank you.
It's right on the corner of Huntington. It's really a busy street, especially in the morning. It's,
Is the school bus right at the intersection
yes,
every day?
yeah, every day. Yes,
You lived there for 7 years with single curb cut configuration?
yes, we have a problem. Every time,
Right.
if we, then we start change, try to back into the driveway. But every time when we get it there, back in, the traffic is already behind of us, they're all pissed off, starting, it's very difficult situation for us, it's, the location just,
Does the fact that you're at that intersection
Right.
create the problem?
plus, this stop sign is right here. I don't think it's safe for somebody to park there. Anyway, if we have our driveway here without variance, that's the stop sign right there next to our property line. So I don't think that, anybody can park there anyway,
I got a question for you, Tom. I mean, we talked about the 10 versus 12-foot curb cuts. If we do a 10, is it going to be safe? Are you still going to be able to come in and out of there? Or was there a reason that you designed a 12-foot curb cut?
Oh, I am not the designer, but Pete, I don't know if you,
12 and 10.
No? Okay.
I think the idea will be, it'll be 10, and it can widen out as you go on site.
Right.
That's good, Chris.
Okay, anybody else from the board? Anyone from the public like to speak? Okay, public portion is closed. We ready?
If we're ready, I'll frame the motion. It's a C variance application. It's just the one variance now to allow two curb cuts where one's permitted. They're going to be 2 10s as opposed to 2 12s. I'll note that. So that's just the one variance. The conditions will, the other conditions are, subject to any other outside approvals that may be necessary, subject to any representations made on behalf of the applicant or by the applicant during the course of the hearing, and then just the standard conditions we put in every resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Tom Collins?
A lot of talk about 2 curb cuts. But, I appreciate you getting up and giving your testimony, Mrs. N. It's 7 years of experience, and that is important to know. I've been driving through that neighborhood for 45 years, and let me tell you, you're right. It's a really busy, and it's dangerous. And you could have 100 stop signs, traffic lights, police every day, it won't make a difference. It's still going to be a tough neighborhood. I think this is very, very de minimis. I don't really see, it stays with the character of the development, it stays with the neighborhood. It's a betterment for our public safety and for the children and the homeowners. This is something that, a case where it's very, very justified, so I vote in favor.
Richard Patterson?
Well, I've got 3 or 4 good arguments against this, and I'm not going to get into it only because of the location. Because of the location where it is, I'm going to vote yes.
Michael Richmond?
Yeah, I actually have a circular curb cut, and it definitely, so I know from experience, it does make a difference pulling out. So it definitely fits the neighborhood pattern. It's really not going to take away from any, like Chris was saying earlier, people that park there are not going to the beach. It's not for commercial, so I don't really think that's an issue. And no, are we going to allow circular curb cuts all over town? Absolutely not. But, every variance is specific to the variance. And I think in this situation, the safety matter overrides any other concern of mine, so I'm going to vote yes.
Stephen Giesecke?
Oh, and by the way, I do like also that the driveway is, I don't know if everybody knows what a grass paver is, but it's like almost like a cinder block. You put it, but the grass grows through it, so it's a lot more permeable than like a regular paver. Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Next. Okay, I certainly see the advantage of the circular driveway. And used properly, it would be helpful. So I think you get a good argument here for it, so I approve.
Michael Raphael?
I don't have much to add to the other board members. I mean, from a safety standpoint, the fact that there's almost 30 of these circular driveways in the area, I think if we leave that single driveway, it may not even be used. So I think everything's in favor for this for me, and I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernati?
I agree with the other board members. I think it's a better design for that location. It is a busy intersection. The safety factor is everything. You need to be safe backing out of there. I don't see any negative impacts, and I vote in favor.
John Pitts?
Yeah, I haven't been driving through the neighborhood for 45 years like Tom, but living on Huntington, I go through that intersection quite often. For this specific property, at that specific location, with that three-way intersection there, I think it does provide benefit to the community, for you to be able to pull out, nose out onto the road. So I approve.
And Craig Palmisano?
Mr. Bellington's presentation was on spot, and the homeowner, you're living there 7 years and dealing with this and going through this, benefit for you and the neighborhood, and you'll have to work the parking out for yourself there, make it usable so you pull out forward, and I approve also with the rest of the board.
The application is approved with 8 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Did you call me? Did you call me? No. I sent you.
Okay. Our next case is FimSim Capital GP LLC, 110 South Andover Avenue, Block 1.02, Lot 12, located in the S30 zoning district, seeking C variance relief for curb cut width and potentially others for a new single-family home. Current on taxes, water and sewer payments, proof of advertising, and notification provided, represented by Eric S. Goldstein.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicant. This is also a curb cut case, similar but a little bit different. This is on the beach front of Andover Avenue. There is an existing house being rebuilt now on a 100-foot wide lot. The specific design that Mr. Blackman put together on behalf of the property owner from OSK has a oversized curb cut in front of the house, further from the beach, as opposed to being closer to the beach, on what would be a more than double lot on Andover. So, as you know, this is S30 zoning, we need 40 feet of frontage, which would give us a curb cut across the street. There are two homes directly next to each other with a very large curb cut between them. So instead of two homes, two curb cuts, this is one house just with an oversized single curb cut. So Jerry's going to walk us through the house. The house itself doesn't need any variances at all. We're just talking about the curb cut to align with the new design. As all of you probably know, Andover is no parking between 10 and 5, so this does not take away on-street parking in the busy summertime when there's people going to and from the beach. Really has very little impact on the neighborhood because the homes, and as Chris said earlier in his case, the way the neighborhood development pattern has occurred, you've got a few homes that are double curb cuts across the street. A little further down, you've got, again, directly across the street, a side-by-side curb cut with homes on 40-foot wide lots. So I think what the town's going to get here, if this is approved, is one house on a, again, more than double lot. But Jerry can talk about the house a little bit and the curb cut and the needs for the variances, but the house itself, again, doesn't need any variances, so we don't want to get into the design of the house too much unless Roger or the board members have any questions.
Is this a new house or a rehab? It says it both ways.
It's a new house.
Brand new house?
Yeah, brand new from the ground up.
The house is already built, so there's really nothing to talk about with the house.
It's just the alignment of where the driveway is going to go.
Right, so when the plans were approved, were you approved with the 18-foot curb cut?
I think it was approved, Roger, with the 23-foot curb cut, which is what's there now, because we didn't touch the curb cut at all.
Left it exist.
Now, that's where we're getting, that's what we're seeking. The existing's 23. Oh, it is 27, okay. I'm sorry.
Existing's 27 and you want 27.
To legalize the 27.
Should have been 18.
Right.
Realigning it?
Yes, because the house, and think this where Jerry can explain a little bit, doesn't line up to what was there before with the new garage. Might be helpful to,
Well, why does an 18-foot line it up?
18 doesn't line up.
What do you need to line it up?
Well, we're seeking a
2
20.
two driveways, right? Side-by-side driveways?
It's one large driveway.
Yeah, it shows 2 vehicles parking on it.
Side-by-side parking, correct.
2.
Right,
And we normally give 18-foot for side-by-side.
correct.
Okay.
So what is what's the problem with having an 18-foot curb cut?
We get Mr. Blackman sworn in, he might be able to give us some better testimony on that, as to how the house lines up with the driveway.
Okay, Mr. Lackman, just give us your name and address for the record.
Gerald Blackman, Blackman, the firm of OSK Design Partners, 475 Whitehorse Pike, Collingswood, New Jersey.
Okay, Mr. Blackman, please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Okay. Just real quick,
Yeah,
Eric, it's been
sure.
been a while, or maybe never, but
Yes, Mr. Blackman, just walk us through your qualifications and the plans that
Yeah.
when
I
you
have
get sworn in.
testified before this board before.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a registered architect and a professional planner, state of New Jersey, 33 years of experience. I have 2 degrees in architecture. I've testified probably before 24 boards in New Jersey previously.
Okay.
So Jerry, just walk us through, the board has some questions, of course you heard what they had to say, so.
Yeah, there was an existing single-family home on the property previous, and we've designed a new home for the property. The existing curb cut was originally proposed to remain. The existing curb cut, we're proposing to shift south. The existing curb cut extends, it's approximately 16 inches north of the north property line. So it begins to straddle the side property line, not by a lot, by 16 inches. Whereas, a driveway's required by ordinance to be at least a foot away from the property line, and then you can have an 18-foot wide max driveway. We're actually proposing to shift the curb cut to align with the garage as designed with the new house that's being built. It's about 70% completed at this point. The reason that we're proposing the curb cut to be shifted is because the driveway's further south than what the existing one was. The existing driveway was on the order of 23 or 24 feet wide, but the curb cut was about 27 feet wide. We're just proposing to take the same 27-foot wide curb cut, shift it south to align with the new garage. Now, the question's been asked fairly, why not an 18-foot curb cut? You have a double driveway. You know, we have two cars, 18 feet is fine. I guess I would submit to the board if, you know, you travel down Andover, it's a 50-foot right-of-way. You know, it's a much smaller actual cartway. The more width I can get to turn into that driveway, especially if there's a car already parked on the driveway, the better. I think it promotes more efficient circulation, not only pulling in but backing out as well, especially if there is a car already on the driveway. And I will indicate that I think it's just generally accepted that if you're allowed an 18-foot driveway, you're also allowed an 18-foot curb cut. The borough's ordinance doesn't regulate the curb cut width, just the driveway. I think it's just generally accepted, 18-foot driveway, an 18-foot curb cut. I think in general practice, though, the curb cut is actually a little wider than the driveway actually is. And I think this promotes that, more safe turning, especially if you have a larger vehicle.
And the house is being built with permits. This isn't something that...
Oh, yes. The house has been permitted. It did not need any variances. It's a 2.5-story house, complies with height, complies with setbacks, complies with building coverage. We actually exceed the amount of landscaping in the front yard. We actually exceed that, and I think rather comfortably as well.
A question on the plan where you have the two driveways drawn on.
Yep.
The two drives.
Yep.
What is next to that where it says garage? Is that just grass? Is that grass there?
Yes, yeah,
That's
on the
great.
north side of the
So that
house.
looks like the driveway, the new driveway will cover that grass area for you to drive in and park on the grass?
No, we're not actually, I mean, the curb cut would extend that far, but we're not
Yeah, but
proposing to,
extend 9 feet that way.
Yeah.
Almost 10 feet, and we require 9 foot for parking spaces.
yeah, correct, yeah, we're not
So that's
proposing
like-
to
It's really like three
park
9-foot,
there.
9-foot parking spaces, basically.
Yes, yeah, but we're not proposing to park there, though,
No,
but, yeah,
but if somebody wanted to park in the grass, they could just drive right in.
Yeah, to be
Yeah.
clear, there's no parking proposed to the bay side of the house.
Just the
on-
driveway.
Just
just the
the driveway.
You want a
driveway, that's
driveway
correct.
for no parking. You want a 9-foot driveway, but you're not gonna park in front of it. You're not gonna use it to drive.
Right, no, it'll
forward.
be landscaped.
So why do
Right.
you need it? I don't understand why you need it.
To be able to more safely turn in and out of the parking spaces.
Well, that would apply to every house in town. I mean, this
Sure.
is what's not big enough. I mean, we say, I don't understand what's unique about this place, that it needs extra space than the 18 feet that every other place in town gets. There's no parking on the street in the summertime, so there's not a matter of having to squeeze between cars. 50-foot streets are normal in the town. You're shifting the curb cut anyway. I don't see why 18 feet's not sufficient. That it's easier to pull in at 27-foot, of course it is, but we don't allow it.
I'd say even
Could-
20 feet is,
Could
I'd
could
say
we,
20 feet.
could we,
23 is existing.
you got a second?
It's actually 27
27's
existing.
existing.
Right,
But it's a brand-new house and you're shifting it anyway, so why not make it conform?
Rick,
Actually, on their plan, they show it conforming and they cite the code of 18 feet.
But now the submitted plan is showing shifting the existing 27-footer to the,
Well, is this not
To the
your plan?
south.
Is this not your plan? It was part of the application?
Is it on the table?
it's last revision 8. Last revision 8, September 23rd. No, I can't see the title block on this.
But that is your plan, right?
It is our plan, yes, but I don't know what version this is. The
It's the
submitted
version that
plan has a
complies.
date of September 23rd. But there's no title block on this copy to,
Well, this was from you.
when you build a new house, and I'm a builder in Margate and Ventnor and Longport, you don't get, You don't get to keep the old curb cut. That doesn't happen. Are you gonna replace the sidewalk?
We are.
Yeah, so you don't get to keep the curb cut. The plan was approved with an 18-foot curb cut. I mean, you could build that house and there could have been a curb cut all the way across the whole sidewalk. You don't get to keep the curb cut. The curb cut was approved at 18 feet. That's what the house was approved at, not 21 feet, not 27 feet. The thing about the parking thing is, yeah, after 5 o'clock, I see it every day. People come and park on the Andover Avenue. I just did a big job on Andover Avenue. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
If I do say so myself.
Again, I know more about curb cuts than anybody.
So what are you saying, they're taking away parking
I'm
off
saying that
street
when you
parking?
build a new house, you have to conform. And to conform is an 18-foot curb cut.
I know.
And it's on the approved plan. So what-
Well, we're not, Mr. Richmond, I'm not sure about that. That's, so here's the question. And we may have to press pause to find out what the stamped plan actually says.
Well, okay,
Well, 18 foot's required, so
I get it, but what if the plan was approved at a larger number?
I have the right to rescind that.
My God, we have to take a look at that. Because if the plan is signed, look, it could have been a good faith mistake, but I don't think Mr. Poley, who's building this, would have submitted something purposely trying to dupe the board or to dupe the city.
But the fact is that shows on his plan is 18 feet, and he even cites the code, 175-30D5.
Well, that's not a signed plan, Roger. That's a plan that you have, but that could have been a preliminary plan. My point is, I don't think any of us have enough information, we don't, to continue to go forward until we find out what the actual signed plans say. If there's a signed plan that says 23 or 27 or 18, that's what we're governed by. We're governed by what was signed.
Unless he rescinds it.
Well, if it was signed in good faith, because there was a good faith error, and they're this far along, I would venture to say that might not be rescindable.
There's eight revisions. I mean,
If you sign,
Somehow.
if the,
It's not our problem, that's an
Yeah,
issue
that's-
potentially
Mr.
down
Manos
the
is
road. I
correct.
mean, that's, you know.
so we're here tonight to approve doing something with the curb cut.
correct.
Okay, so let's just move forward and hear the testimony and we'll go from there.
Well, I don't know if it's right to continue, Mr. Richmond, for this reason. The board might have a set of facts that we are unaware of. We may have a set of facts that you're unaware of. I think it's important to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing, apples to apples. What we'd like to do is to press pause, we'll go to the city, we'll see what plans are or to Mr. Poley, what plans are signed, because we don't want to go forward on something we may not need to, and at the same time, we don't want the city to base its decision, the planning board, on a set of plans that may or may not have been the final set. What Roger has in front of him is a set of plans, but it's not, there's no title block on it, and it's not the set of plans that's clearly on site.
But it was submitted in your application.
This is the plan that we submitted.
Where did he?
That might have been in the staff committee application.
Either way, shouldn't we just postpone it?
Yeah, just,
Yeah, we're gonna just postpone it?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I mean, we'd like the board to retain jurisdiction while we're looking at this, but without prejudice, we'd like to find out what the plan that is signed actually says, that's all.
Yeah,
And we're not voting on something unnecessarily.
that's fine.
So are you saying if the signed plans say 27 feet, then you don't need a variance?
Correct.
I disagree with that. Actually, your application says the new curb cut and apron is proposed at 23 feet wide or 18 feet wide as permitted by Margate zoning ordinance. That's what the application's for.
Then how do you get approval?
I don't know.
Well, that's why we're postponing it.
Yeah, to find out.
In my opinion, it doesn't, if I approve 50-foot wide, it was an error, and it should be 18.
Yeah, but that unfortunately, I don't want to get into a legal argument. If a municipal government official signs something, that binds the government. A good faith mistake binds the government.
I think this is above our.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
We just said we're gonna postpone it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree we don't have to assign that issue. I agree we should get all the facts and have them before us. The question is when.
Well, we can probably find out pretty quickly. We can talk to the builder immediately to find out what set of plans he's working off of. And from that, if he has a set that says, well, let's find out what it says before we start speculating on what to do next.
Right, I assume you don't want to renotice or anything,
No,
right?
the board can retain jurisdiction on a postponement, and we can just figure out between now and the next meeting. We may not have to come back at all. We may, like Tom said, it may not be something for this board. It may be for someone else to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're done, right?
Yeah, well, we okay next month?
No,
November?
it would be December. We have like 6 or 7 cases.
If you have to come back
It's fine.
December, so I'll say this is postponed to December 19th, 2024. That's a 7 PM meeting. I got here at 6:30. In this room, the applicant will not be required to republish or renotice for December 19th, 2024, 7 PM.
Just with the caveat, if you don't mind, Mr. Manos, that in the event a bunch of stuff drops off, we're ready to go. We might be ready to go the next time this is a possible board meeting.
Say it again?
If he has cancellations, they could be added in.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, there's no one here. I get that, but you got to make a clear
Sure.
record. So, to clarify, looks like it's going to be either the November
21st.
potentially November 21st
At 7.
at 7 PM. We have a full agenda. Assuming nothing drops off, then it's most likely going to be December 19th, 2024 at 7 PM in this room. So if anyone's here, check the agenda for November 21st. If you don't see it, come back December 19th.
Fine.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
2 down, 1.
Okay. Our last case, Dowjack Properties LLC, 119 North Brunswick Avenue, Block 303.01, Lot 10, located in the S25 zoning district, seeking C variance relief for the front yard setback to house, front yard setback to porch, and potentially others in order to construct a new single-family home. Current on taxes, water, and sewer payments, proof of advertising, and notifications provided, represented by Eric Goldstein.
So, Mr. Chairman, just by way of some background here, when,
Eric, real quick, I
Yeah.
think Ms. Gubernati has to recuse herself, and she's probably going to leave for the evening. If she wants to.
understood. I believe this is
Sorry.
a house for sale with one of her agents, so that's correct.
Correct.
So when this initial report came out, there were some requests for revisions, which I think you're getting now. Roger has some issues with a number of variances that were not called out in the original plan. Mr. Zawacki, the architect, revised the plan to, I think, address 3 of those issues, one of which was the third floor deck, one of which was coverage. We do have a revised rendering along with a third floor diagram showing how the house is to be built. And with the exception of those changes, and if you go through Roger's report, which we agree with, the third floor deck did not meet the definition based upon the pent roof, which we know is important. And the remainder of the revisions are in front of you, which we're going to get some testimony on tonight as to how we fixed a little bit concerns for the property and then ultimately what we're seeking by way of the variances. So I don't know if, Roger, you want to go through the report first, or if you want to...
So I think I got an email from Mark saying he's going to correct the curb cut width, and the revised plan still shows 20.
The revised plan should show 18. Is that on? Yeah. Yeah.
Site plan?
It still shows.
Site plan shows 20 feet.
It's 18, so if that's incorrect, we are definitely not going for 20 on the curb.
Okay.
Yeah, One shows 18, one shows 20.
It's 18. Yeah.
Just really briefly, it's, I'll just go through the variances. Standard front yard setback. Minimum front yard setback to the deck for the first floor, whereas the minimum front yard setback based on prevailing setbacks is 6.65 feet and 5.33 feet is proposed. Again, that's for the first and second floor deck, as well as third floor deck will be, I don't know what the new measurement will be, but that's a variance too for the third floor deck setback, more than likely, unless they reduce it by 1.32 feet. Minimum front yard setback to the principal building, whereas the minimum front yard setback based on prevailing setback is 13.23 feet and 11.33 feet if proposed. Third floor deck encroachment and curb cut width are being eliminated. So that's pretty much it.
Right. We agree with that. Mr. Carney is with me this evening, who's going to testify to the plan and just walk us through any questions the board might have. So, Leo, if you don't mind, you could have him.
Sure.
come in.
Mr. Carney, just your name and business address, please.
Matthew Carney, it's 407 Davis Avenue, Northfield, New Jersey.
And please raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do?
Okay. And you're just more as a fact witness?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Carney's a draftsman. He actually draws the plans, of course. Mr. Zawacki submits them. He's in Florida for building permits, but now
Use a microphone, please.
walk us through specifically the variances, but you can describe the house a little bit. I mean, obviously, the board has copies of the plan, but what we're
We
trying
gave you guys, the front elevation rendering, which, obviously it looks really nice. But, so we're going into the front yard setback, obviously but the big question is the third floor deck, overhang, 1.4 feet, so I don't know if Mark would be interested in pulling it back, if that's why we're here for the variance, obviously. So that's the one issue, and then where's the other side?
Well, you can keep it where it is, but the roof would be further back.
Yeah, the pent roof. The pent roof does come back.
I mean, the back of it, so the deck side. Otherwise, you need a setback to the deck.
On this side, yeah, okay. So,
Excuse me, so what would it, for the third? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay.
so obviously that was our main issue, I guess, with the front yard setback for the deck, and obviously the building setback, is minuscule, obviously, for the,
Right, the requirement based on the calculation, 13.23 feet, you're at 11.33 feet. So
yeah,
you're
so two,
yeah, a little less than 2 feet. But we do need variances. Roger, that's still the same for each deck, first, second, third. We're at the same distance, 5.33. Correct, Roger?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not just the one, it's to the deck, but it's on all 3 floors. And just want to make sure that what Mr. Zawacki finally prepared satisfies you, Roger, with regard to the pent roof and the way it's being constructed. Because that we're not seeking a variance for.
Right.
But is what you have now satisfactory, in your opinion, to meet the code?
Yes.
On the pent roof, okay.
I only see it from the front. I don't know what it is from the side.
the overhang,
Yes.
the 1.4. It's 1.4 on each overhang, side to side. As part
So
of-
the front of the pent roof does not go past the front of the decks below.
The overhang does,
Well, the ordinance says it can't.
okay. So
We'll pull that back. That's something which we know the board's very conscious of. So with regard to,
You have to make the deck smaller.
yeah, the overhang extended.
To make the deck smaller to bring the pent back in.
Correct. Because I know that's something that the board is always conscious of, that you have 2 decks lining up and then you have a roof above hanging over even more. So, what is that, 1.4?
1.4, yeah.
So that's not gonna be a variance, you're gonna fix that.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll make it.
Could I have a question on the building setback?
In front yard building setback?
The building setback, it's 2 feet over. It's 2 feet bigger than it really should be on an empty lot.
Yeah.
And when I look at the setbacks of buildings on the street, they're 15 foot, 13 foot, 13.8, 12 foot 8, 12.8, and this one wants to be 11 foot 4. You want to be the closest one on the street there, in the front building setback. And I question why on an empty lot, you can't make the house
2
fit
feet smaller.
fit.
Yeah, I mean,
Is it because it's 5 bedrooms? Can you make it 4-bedroom house? Is it because,
the lot's small as it is, you know, so, I mean, you know how people are, they want bigger rooms.
I know, but you're exactly right.
Yeah.
The lot is small, so therefore I feel the house should be smaller. That's my feeling. I feel the house should be smaller. What do you plan on the backyard deck there? There's nothing really on this drawing.
Yeah, the backyard deck.
It's not showing on here. Is it ground level?
Yeah, there is on the last page there, showing the square footages of each floor and the ground level.
Pavers?
I believe so, yes, that's what we were talking about.
Not showing anything on that.
So that third floor, the third page that I passed you, it shows the layout of the ground floor.
The third page of this one.
You know, all the dimensions and verbiage were taken off.
Yeah, it's very small.
Do you want to know what's under it, Mr. Palmisano, or
No,
behind it?
there was a question about the back deck. Roger had that question too earlier on his comments about the deck in the rear of the yard.
I didn't know if it's at grade, and there's no elevation of it.
Yeah, so that third page doesn't show the second floor or the first floor?
I know my biggest concern is the 2 feet extra on the front of the house. That's what I'm concerned about.
Okay.
Roger, is he making the square footage requirement for the landscaping?
Yes.
I'm not quite, okay, so on the ground floor, so you do, I'm sure some of the board members like this, Tom. It is open underneath there, so you follow me? So you get to the garage, so instead of that being enclosed, it's open there. You follow, you know what I'm saying, right? Now in the back, is that dotted line there, is that all open under there where it says veranda, or
Yeah.
is that closed off?
That's open.
That is all open?
That's all open.
So it's all open,
Yeah.
right. So the only area you have downstairs is the room for the one-car garage, the elevator, and the foyer, and the
That's it.
closet. That's
Yep.
it, right. Okay.
Look, as Mr. Palmisano points out, of course, we see this all the time. It's a vacant lot, so you have the ability to do anything. Trying to make it, as nice as possible. And this is one of those cases where we are trying to max out the house, and actually more than max it out, because that's what the builders do. We can't make something up about the.
I know.
So when we talk about what the end result is, what you're getting, as Mr. Richmond points out, is it's fairly open on the first level, kind of all the way around. It's a couple of minor deviations from the deck in the front, which they're fairly minor. We're going 5.33, where we need it to be at 6.65. Mr. Palmisano points out, of course, the front yard setbacks of the building, which is open in that direction anyway. So that's really what we're looking at.
The other comment I had was, there's a car in the garage, a car in front of the garage, and one in front of the front door as the third one for that 5th bedroom, correct?
Right.
If you had a 4-bedroom house, you'd only need 2 spaces. You wouldn't have to block the front door with the driveway and all that, you know? I know you don't get as much
Yeah, again, it's
for
a
four
small
bedroom
lot.
as you
It's
do
not-
for a 5-bedroom. I
Yeah.
understand that. But the house, we took down a house that was probably a little 3-bedroom rancher on that street, and there are other tiny houses on that street too. And it's a tight street. I think Brunswick Avenue is a pretty tight street myself.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of house.
So for the house, you're asking basically for an extra 2 feet, right?
Slightly less, yeah, base, it's 2 feet, we'll call it 2 feet.
Right.
And we're willing to pull in that third floor deck. We've been
Yeah,
willing to do
I guess does anybody else from the board want to have any questions or comments or anything like that?
I think
Yeah,
if you look at this, I'm sorry, Rich, you want to go first?
Well, thank you. I was about to fall asleep, so let me go first. I agree with you. You've got the minimum lot size, the minimum legal lot size, 2,500 square feet is what you got. And I think you're putting too big of a house on it. I don't think you need any variances. I think jamming a big house is the biggest complaint we get here, is these giant houses on little lots. I think the house is too big for the little lot, and I think it should be built without any setbacks, variances.
Can I go now?
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with Mr. Patterson 100%.
Whoa.
You could have let me go, and then you wouldn't have to talk. You could have fell asleep.
You agree with me?
Who?
Personally, the decks right now are 6 foot, right? So personally, I wouldn't even have a problem with the decks staying where they are because, 6-foot deck is. But I do agree with Mr. Patterson and Mr. Collins and Mr. Palmisano that we can do something with the house. If you have to eliminate a bathroom or,
Look, I think all your comments are probably correct. We come here a lot and try to get on, we get questions from someone, usually Craig or Tom or John, saying, does it have to be this big? And of course, what we're doing here, this isn't an end user house, it's a builder house. And they want to make the house as big as possible, because as Craig said, it gets more money, more bedrooms, it's what we do. We hear you about the setbacks, and talking to Mr. Carney, there's a good possibility with maybe a quick text message or something that we could eliminate the setback to the house. Mr. Richmond's comment is one that we would like to follow up on a little bit, because decks are important, setback to the house itself, okay, we could squeeze or Matt and his gang can squeeze enough out of the rooms to make that a little less noticeable, but when you're on a deck, and you're in Margate and you want to enjoy your outdoor space, that's something where every inch counts. So
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
perhaps what we could do, if you'd give us.
Eric, I think where you're at, though, is you're still doing a 5-bedroom house where it should be 4. You're jamming too many cars in. When they give a 5-bedroom house, typically these days, the builder gets it, somebody buys it, they ended up bringing 10 to 12 cars. That neighborhood can't substantiate it. They really do. They bring, 8 cars. But I'm just saying, it's depends on the neighborhood, the size of the lot, and the location. So if this was in a different area, on a wider street, somewhere else, it might support that type of a house. I don't
Everything
know
you're
if he's
saying
going
is
to
correct.
say,
I can't
cut a
disagree with you.
bedroom, cut a parking space, because that door shouldn't be flat.
Mr. Collins, you are
Craig was right.
100% correct, but regardless of that, it will be a 5-bedroom house one way or the other. But what we would say is, if we made it conform with the setback to the building, then you're getting a 5-bedroom house that conforms with a very, very slightly bigger deck. And that's what we would amend the application. Everything would be compliant but for the deck sizes. Because again, if this is all denied, it'll be a 5-bedroom house, you'll still have the same parking configuration, you'll just have smaller decks. House will be smaller, but, right, we're gonna concede on the house, so the house will be back regardless, because it sounds like that would be denied anyway. But we would go with a very slightly larger deck situation, as Mr. Richmond had kind of commented. This way, you're getting a 5-bedroom house either way, you're eliminating the setback to the building, you're eliminating 20 feet curb cut to 18, you've got a compliant 3rd-floor deck, and then the variance would be size of the decks in Roger's report on the item 4th one down.
So what would the variance be for the decks?
1.3 feet,
It would still be the same?
same
variance?
size of the deck.
That's the third floor deck, right?
No. Well, the 3rd floor deck's being pulled in, so it would be the 1st and 2nd floor roofs and the pens being compliant.
So what would the first and second floor, so right now they're at 6 feet. Well, I guess you're gonna have to, if you push the house back, then the deck should be a little wider.
1 foot 4 inches around.
1 foot 4 inches? Yeah,
Almost 8 feet.
right,
Close to 8 feet. You'll gain 2 feet. Pretty much, yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
But as you know, a 6-foot deck is very small.
right.
Put a table there, you're not walking around it.
Right.
I mean, I agree with, with the fact that if you got an 8-foot deck, you can utilize the deck.
Right.
Much easier.
And the house isn't going to be any bigger, the house will be compliant.
Oh,
And then the same parking issue will exist, because it'll be the same bedroom count, but you'll be getting a smaller house.
So, sir, this, right here it says, the house laid out 38 foot 6 inches. Is that correct? Right now, the house itself. So you're gonna be down to
Yeah.
36.6.
right.
36.
Well, a little less, 36, 8 and a half,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're down to one variance for the 1.33 feet
That's it?
on
That's
the
it.
deck.
For each deck.
For each deck.
For each deck.
That's 2 variants.
Well, actually, it's two, right.
What's the second?
The, one deck, the second
Third floor decks, I mean,
the number of decks, but it's the same distance. But Tom is correct. I'm agreeing with everything you're all saying tonight.
All right, so
I disagree with,
bottom line
Go
is,
ahead.
we're gonna have 2 variances for this first and second floor deck, is that correct?
First floor, second floor deck setback of 1.4
Right,
feet or less.
right.
that's correct, Mr. Ray.
Or more.
Huh?
I heard
Okay.
that.
Anybody else from the board?
There's a guy out there.
Anybody from the public?
Public?
Okay, public portion is closed. Leo?
All right, so we're down to 2 variances. It's going to be front yard setback, C variance application. We'll need a motion in a second, and roll call vote, but 2 variances for the first floor deck and the second floor deck. Requirement 6.65 feet, and each of those 2 decks will be at 5.33 feet. The third floor deck will be pushed back, so that'll meet the setback requirement. That the house will meet the front yards, the house itself will meet the front yard setback requirement. That pent roof will no longer extend past the lower decks, and the curb cut width will be 18 feet. So those will all comply. I'll note those. In terms of any other conditions, anything else in Mr. McLaren's report, unless we otherwise addressed it, any representations made on behalf of the applicant, subject to any outside approvals that may be necessary.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Tom Collins,
Since it's down to 2 small variances on the decks and it's very de minimis, I vote in favor.
Richard Patterson,
I vote in favor for the same reason.
Michael Richmond,
I vote in favor for the same reason.
Stephen Giuseppe,
I don't feel this meets the C2 variance. The only benefit, the only person that benefits from this is the owner. I vote no.
Michael Ruffey,
I'm in agreement with the other board members who voted yes. I also approve.
Thank you, Commissioner.
John Pitts,
Yeah, like Steve, this benefits only the owner, so I do not vote no.
Craig Palmisano.
For the 2-foot concession, I vote yes.
Thank you.
The application is approved with 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
No. Those other 2 things on the agenda, we're gonna have to, we're busy next month. It won't take long, but we'll have to deal with them next month. Unless Roger has anything else.
Yeah.
Anybody second that? All right. All in favor?
Aye.